I've been working for Parker for 6 years, but I'm done working for somebody else. I want to work for myself. Fired up!
What if the road to millions was paved not with fame or fortune, but with mud, metal, and sheer determination?
No, it's a terrible business to be in. It really is a terrible business to be in. Not only are the capital costs just insane.
From the icy wilderness of Alaska to global stardom, Parker Schnabel's rise wasn't just about striking gold. It was about surviving loss, beating the odds, and rewriting what it means to be successful. But behind the camera, the story runs deeper. Who really is Parker Schnabel when the machines stop and the cameras turn off? Gold mining has been around for centuries, but few modern stories are as well known as that of Parker Schnabel. A key figure on the reality TV series Gold Rush, Parker first captured public attention as a teenager with an intense work ethic and a deep interest in mining. His journey from small-town Alaska to becoming a highly respected young miner has been followed by millions of viewers around the world. Parker Russell Schnabel was born on July 22, 1994, in Haines, Alaska. Raised in a mining family, he was exposed to the business from an early age. His father, Roger Schnabel, worked in construction and mining, while his grandfather, John Schnabel, owned the Big Nugget Mine, a family-run operation in Alaska. Parker's mother, Nancy, mostly stayed out of the public eye, focusing on raising Parker and his brother, Payson. Growing up in this environment, Parker didn't have a typical childhood. While most kids were still figuring out how to ride a bike or play video games, he was already showing interest in operating heavy machinery. At the age of 5, he began spending time at the mine, watching how things worked, and slowly getting involved. His grandfather was a big influence during these years, not just teaching him how to operate equipment, but also sharing a strong work ethic and a love for the gold mining lifestyle. Parker attended Haines High School, where he played basketball and was considered a social, active student. Despite his interest in sports, his long-term ambitions were more focused on geology and mining. He had originally planned to study mining in college, aiming to expand his knowledge and perhaps return home with new ideas for the family business. But life took a different turn. At just 16 years old, Parker made a bold decision that would change the course of his life. When one of his grandfather's trusted workers left, Parker stepped in to manage daily operations at the Big Nugget Mine. It was an unusual responsibility for someone his age, but Parker seemed up to the task. He took on leadership roles and was soon making real business decisions, with an eye on increasing productivity and long-term profit. His involvement was no longer just about learning the ropes. He was becoming a key player in the business. Instead of going to college as originally planned, Parker decided to invest his college fund, reportedly tens of thousands of dollars, into starting his own mining operation. This was not an easy decision. For a teenager to bet his future on a business as volatile as gold mining was risky, especially with so much on the line. But Parker believed in his ability to succeed, and he was determined to prove himself outside the shadow of his family name. In 2010, when Parker was only 16, he joined the cast of Discovery Channel's Gold Rush. The show followed several families and individuals trying to strike it rich by mining gold in some of the harshest environments in North America. Parker appeared alongside his grandfather in the early seasons, giving viewers a glimpse of his dedication and seriousness. What stood out about Parker, even then, was how focused he was, not distracted by the cameras, not trying to play a character, just working hard. After working for a few years in Alaska, Parker made a move that would further define his career. At 18, he left home and took his mining operation to the Klondike region of Yukon, Canada. The Klondike was famous for the gold rush of the late 1800s, and while it's still rich in gold deposits, it's also known for its tough terrain and short mining seasons. Many have tried and failed to make a profit there, but Parker was determined to beat the odds. In his very first season in the Klondike, Parker and his crew managed to extract 1,029 ounces of gold, worth over $1.4 million at the time. That kind of result wasn't just luck. It was proof that his instincts, preparation, and work ethic were paying off. He was no longer just a teenager with a famous last name. he had become a serious contender in the gold mining world. Parker continued to work under pressure, renting land from well-known miner Tony Beets and investing heavily in equipment and crew. By the time he was 24, Parker had reportedly mined over $13 million worth of gold. These weren't exaggerated TV numbers. They were backed up by footage, records, and industry insiders who watched his rise with equal parts admiration and envy. Despite his young age, Parker's maturity on site set him apart. He managed crews, handled setbacks, and made decisions that many older miners might hesitate to take. His success also helped shape the tone and direction of Gold Rush, which grew into one of the most popular reality shows on Discovery Channel. While the show features several miners and crews, Parker quickly became one of the central figures. His story resonated with viewers, not just because of the gold, but because of the clear effort he put into everything he did. Interestingly, Parker didn't abandon education entirely. After his mining career had taken off, he returned to finish his college degree, doing it on his own timeline. During those years, he also began investing in other mining ventures and even explored the idea of creating his own reality series. Some critics initially questioned Parker's decision to appear on reality TV, suggesting it might take away from his credibility as a miner. But that criticism faded as the show's popularity grew, and Parker proved that he could handle both the camera and the job site. His down-to-earth personality and straightforward communication style helped him connect with fans, and he didn't play into any of the dramatic tropes that often define reality television. From the beginning, Parker Schnabel showed an unusual level of focus for someone his age. He wasn't in it for fame or recognition, at least not primarily. His goal was always the gold, and his story shows what can happen when talent, opportunity, and timing align. That said, his success didn't come without challenges, and as he continued to build his brand and business, the pressure only grew. What makes Parker's story compelling is that it reflects both tradition and modern ambition. He took a family legacy and brought it into a new era, using technology, business sense, and media savvy to build something bigger than himself. He showed that being young doesn't have to be a disadvantage, and that passion, when paired with hard work, can take someone a very long way. After his success in the Klondike, Parker began looking for more opportunities to grow his mining business. Renting land from veteran miner Tony Beets was a strategic move. Beets was already a well-known figure in the industry, respected for both his experience and his direct, no-nonsense approach. The two didn't always agree, and their working relationship sometimes became tense, as shown on screen, but it was ultimately a win for both sides. For Parker, it was a chance to work some of the most promising ground available. For Tony, it was a reliable lease that brought in steady income. The relationship between Parker and Tony also gave the show a new dynamic, pitting two very different personalities against each other. While Tony operated with the wisdom of experience, Parker brought youthful energy, a strong sense of urgency, and a willingness to try new methods. Fans of Gold Rush often noted how Parker adapted quickly to challenges. Whether it was breakdowns in machinery, weather delays, or issues with staffing, he rarely let frustration derail his plans. Financially, the rewards were clear. By his mid-20s, Parker had mined over $13 million worth of gold. These numbers weren't inflated for TV, they were based on actual gold hauls, which viewers often saw counted and weighed at the end of each season. And while his youth still made some in the industry skeptical, his results spoke louder than any criticism. As Parker's profile grew, so did the Gold Rush franchise. Discovery Channel saw the show evolve from a niche documentary series into a ratings powerhouse. Viewership numbers climbed steadily, especially among young adults and middle-aged audiences who connected with the idea of ordinary people chasing extraordinary success. At the heart of that appeal was Parker, driven, focused, and just human enough to be relatable. The show's early episodes featured Parker working under the guidance of his grandfather and within the safety net of the family business. But as seasons went on, he took more ownership of the narrative, literally and figuratively. When John Schnabel officially handed over the Big Nugget mine to Parker, it was more than just a business decision. It was symbolic. Parker was no longer simply continuing a legacy. He was creating one of his own. As demand for Gold Rush content increased, Discovery expanded the franchise. Spin-offs like Gold Rush, The Dirt and Gold Rush, Parker's Trail offered behind-the-scenes footage, interviews, and extra insight into the lives of the miners. These spin-offs gave Parker more screen time, but also allowed him to show different sides of himself. He was no longer just the young guy running machines. He became a storyteller, and eventually, a producer. At one point, Parker even pitched his own series idea to the network. This was a bold move, especially considering how many reality show ideas never make it to air. Initially, executives weren't entirely sold on it. They approved a small budget, just $10,000 per episode for the first run, and waited to see how it would perform. It didn't take long for those early doubts to fade. Parker's show gained a strong following and was soon granted a much larger production budget. Discovery began investing millions per season, confident that Parker's name could carry a series. One of the reasons the show worked so well was that it followed more than just the gold. It tracked Parker's growth, as a businessman, as a leader, and as a person. The audience wasn't just watching trucks and excavators. They were watching Parker learn to navigate contracts, manage teams, and make hard financial decisions. Unlike some reality stars who lean into drama or eccentricity, Parker focused on the work. That consistency became part of his brand. Gold mining, especially in places like Alaska and the Yukon, is no easy job. The terrain is tough, the seasons are short, and the risk is high. But Parker approached the job with a level of professionalism that surprised many. He understood that mining was as much about logistics and planning as it was about digging. Each season required him to decide how much land to lease, how many crew members to hire, what equipment to upgrade, and how to transport it all in time to start operations. These were serious decisions, often involving hundreds of thousands of dollars. It was also around this time that Parker started experimenting with new mining locations. While Alaska and the Klondike remained his primary focus, he began looking into operations in South America and other parts of the world. This international approach added complexity to his work, but also opened the door to larger gold deposits and new adventures, many of which were featured in his spin-off series. What became clear was that Parker wasn't just trying to mine gold. He was building a career that extended beyond any single claim. He started investing in better technology and equipment to reduce downtime and improve efficiency. He also hired specialists who could help streamline operations. These moves weren't always easy. Every dollar spent on upgrades was a dollar that couldn't be used elsewhere. But Parker wasn't afraid to take calculated risks, something that separated him from many of his peers. Even though he was making more money than most people his age, Parker avoided the flashy lifestyle often associated with young millionaires. He didn't showcase exotic cars or luxury holidays. Instead, he put most of his earnings back into the business. He stated in interviews that his goal was to grow the operation, not spend money on things he didn't need. This approach earned him respect, not just from fans, but also from older miners who saw in him a level of responsibility that was rare. As Gold Rush entered its later seasons, Parker continued to be one of its biggest draws. While new cast members came and went, his consistency, drive, and results kept audiences invested. At the same time, he started to think more broadly about the future. Producing his own content, managing a growing team, and staying competitive in a changing industry, all of it pointed to someone who had long since moved beyond being just a TV personality. Behind the camera, Parker was also developing a solid business structure. He created a formal mining company, hired permanent staff, and maintained year-round operations, even when the show wasn't filming. By doing so, he protected himself from the ups and downs of television. If the show ever ended, his mining business would still stand. That kind of forward thinking was part of what made him so successful. Through all of this, Parker managed to stay grounded. He admitted that the work wasn't always fun. and that running a mining operation came with stress, long hours, and physical exhaustion. But he also acknowledged that it was worth it, not just for the money, but for the satisfaction of doing something meaningful. For someone who started in mining at age 5 and worked his way up without shortcuts, every achievement felt earned. One of the biggest personal losses Parker ever experienced was the death of his grandfather, John Schnabel. For anyone familiar with Gold Rush, John was more than just a background figure. He was a beloved presence on the show and in Parker's life. He wasn't just a mentor in mining, he was also a mentor in life. John represented wisdom, patience, and the kind of grounded strength that came from a lifetime of hard work. When he passed away in his sleep in 2016 at the age of 96, it wasn't just a personal tragedy for Parker, it was an emotional blow to fans of the show as well. John's backstory is a reminder of just how deep mining ran in the Schnabel family. He grew up during the Great Depression and worked his first job delivering newspapers. With his earnings, he helped support his family by buying food, a responsibility that left a lasting impression on him. Later in life, he went into the logging business and didn't begin mining until the age of 68, when health problems forced him into early retirement. But rather than slowing down, John bought the Big Nugget mine and threw himself into gold mining. It was more than a business. It was a way to stay active and keep his mind sharp. He spent those later years teaching Parker and his brother Payson everything he knew about the industry. Parker often said that everything he knew about mining started with his grandfather. Their bond was close, and their time together on the show felt genuine, never forced or scripted. When John died, Parker shared a heartfelt message with fans, saying how grateful he was for the years they had together. He called his grandfather an amazing father, grandpa, and family man, and thanked fans for their support. For a while, Parker seemed emotionally shaken by the loss, and that pain was visible on screen. Yet, in true Parker fashion, he channeled the grief into something constructive. Not long after his grandfather's passing, Parker decided to honor John's memory by retracing the famous Klondike Gold Rush Trail, a historic route taken by prospectors during the late 1800s. Known as the Chilkoot Trail, the journey is challenging and symbolic. For Parker, it was a way to connect with the spirit of the old miners and with the man who had meant so much to him. The trail was featured in Parker's Trail, a spin-off series that focused on Parker and his small team as they navigated the rough, frozen wilderness under extreme conditions. That journey wasn't just physically demanding, it was also an emotional test. Parker admitted in interviews that the mental toll of being in close quarters with the same small group of people for weeks on end was one of the hardest parts. While he appreciated the experience, he also opened up about how tough it was to have no space, no time to decompress, and no way to escape the daily pressure. Parker has always described himself as someone who values quiet time, so the stress of constant social interaction was something he struggled with more than the physical discomfort. One of the more difficult periods in Parker's personal life came during his relationship with Ashley Ewell, an Australian veterinary nurse whom he met while on vacation in 2016. Their relationship developed quickly, and Ashley even appeared in Season 6 of Gold Rush, helping Parker at the mine and interacting with his crew. For a time, they seemed like a strong couple. Ashley brought a sense of calm to Parker's often intense and work-focused personality. Fans appreciated seeing a lighter side of him, one that wasn't always buried in equipment and business decisions. However, the relationship didn't last. In 2018, Parker confirmed that he and Ashley had broken up after about 2 years together. It came as a surprise to many viewers, and Parker didn't shy away from taking responsibility for the split. He admitted that he struggled to prioritize the relationship and felt he hadn't placed enough value on what they had. He explained that his focus on work and the pressure of the show often came first, and that over time, this had caused a rift between them. There were rumors after the breakup, particularly surrounding a photo Parker shared on Instagram with his co-miner Sheena, which led to speculation that the two might be involved. However, neither Parker nor Sheena ever commented publicly on the nature of their relationship, and no official confirmation was ever given. Following the split, Parker chose to remain single, stating that he wanted to focus on his work and that relationships were difficult to maintain under his lifestyle and schedule. During this time, Parker also faced physical health challenges. While filming Parker's trail in South America, he developed severe altitude sickness while trying to reach one of the highest mining sites in the world. Altitude sickness can be dangerous if not treated quickly, and in Parker's case, it required an emergency IV drip. A clip from the show showed him throwing up and visibly weakened, with his team genuinely concerned about whether he could continue. At one point, the expedition's doctor warned that the trip would have to end if Parker didn't improve. Despite the health scare, Parker recovered and pushed through. He later posted on social media that the journey was tough, but the experience, people, and country made it one of the best adventures of his life. That sort of comment has become typical for Parker. He rarely dwells on the negatives, and instead focuses on what he learned or gained. Still, it's clear that the trip took a toll, both mentally and physically. Parker's time in the South American jungle also exposed him to a completely different kind of mining. Unlike the semi-mechanized operations in Alaska or the Yukon, mining in Guyana was mostly manual. It was more physically demanding and came with added risks, including dangerous wildlife, difficult terrain, and exposure to diseases like malaria. Parker noted in one interview that while he was used to bears back home, the spiders in the jungle, some the size of dinner plates, unnerved him more than anything else. Even so, the crew managed to stay safe, and the series gave viewers a raw look at just how dangerous the pursuit of gold can be. These personal and physical struggles showed that Parker's path to success wasn't just about machinery and ounces of gold. It was also about resilience. Whether it was coping with personal loss, heartbreak, or the mental challenges of leadership and isolation, Parker kept moving forward. He didn't always have the answers, but he always showed up and put in the work. It's easy to see someone on TV, especially someone who's made a lot of money, and assume they've had it easy. But Parker's story tells a different kind of truth. His success has come at a cost. Missed relationships, emotional strain, and the constant pressure of being in charge. Yet, he's never pretended otherwise. He's been open about the downsides of his lifestyle and the sacrifices that come with it. In recent seasons, Parker has had to navigate a changing mining landscape. Fuel prices have surged, equipment has become more expensive to repair or replace, and supply chains have become less reliable. On top of that, gold prices have seen volatility, affecting not just profit margins but also future planning. Running a large-scale mining operation is not just about finding gold. It's about managing risk, timing, and people. Even for someone like Parker, who has years of experience and millions in past earnings, each season brings its own form of uncertainty. One of the bigger shifts came with increased competition. As the popularity of Gold Rush grew, more crews and miners entered the scene, some hoping for both a big payday and a share of the spotlight. Parker found himself going up against familiar faces like Tony Beats and Rick Ness, as well as new players who were eager to prove themselves. But unlike the early seasons where Parker was still learning, he now had the experience and infrastructure to handle pressure, at least professionally. He stated in interviews that while competition wasn't something he feared, he was aware that the stakes were getting higher each year. At one point, Parker commented that the world was in a strange place, not just economically, but operationally. He noted that even longtime miners like Tony were dealing with bureaucratic red tape, permits, and shifting regulations. For others, inexperience was proving costly. Rick Ness was rumored to be taking a break, and newer miners were struggling to stay afloat. Parker acknowledged that the landscape was changing, but he remained committed to mining. He said that while it might be easier to scale back and play it safe, he was more interested in pushing forward, even if that meant taking financial risks. Those risks have included buying more land, expanding operations, and investing in better technology. At times, this has required millions in upfront costs, often with no guaranteed return. Yet Parker's approach has always been to reinvest. Instead of spending on luxuries or making flashy purchases, he's put most of his profits back into his business. He's been vocal about that mindset, stating more than once that any money earned during a successful season typically went straight into new equipment or the next claim. Despite this frugal approach, rumors have continued to circulate about Parker's wealth and how he lives off camera. Some fans have speculated that he owns multiple properties, including a high-end home in Alaska valued at nearly $1 million, and possibly another house in Porcupine Creek worth over $1.7 million. Reports described a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home with modern amenities, but when asked directly, Parker denied owning any houses. In his words, he didn't own a house, a boat, or even a fancy car. He referred to his mining operation as a big, expensive sandbox and claimed that all his money was still buried in the ground. Whether or not these statements are entirely accurate, Parker's public image hasn't been focused on wealth or luxury. In fact, what separates him from many other reality TV figures is how little his life has changed, at least on the surface. He still wears the same practical clothes, drives basic work vehicles, and spends most of his time on location rather than in cities or studios. If he has indulged in private comforts, he's kept them away from the public eye. His lifestyle choices also reflect how deeply mining is tied to his identity. Parker has said on multiple occasions that he prefers to work rather than socialize. He's admitted that he rarely keeps in touch with old friends, explaining that the intensity of the mining season leaves little time for anything else. While some might see this as sad or isolating, Parker has framed it differently, not as a sacrifice, but as a conscious decision to stay focused on what he loves. That mindset extends into how he manages his public image. While Parker has a presence on social media, he's not overly active. He doesn't post for attention or chase trends. His updates tend to be work-related or connected to upcoming episodes of Gold Rush or Parker's Trail. He avoids controversy and rarely comments on rumors, letting his work speak for itself. In an age where oversharing has become normal, his reserved and practical attitude sets him apart. As Parker closed out Season 14 of Gold Rush, fans saw him in top form again. Despite all the challenges, he managed to pull off another impressive season, finding more gold and improving his crew's efficiency. It was a reminder that while Parker may no longer be the underdog, he's still willing to work as if he is. He doesn't coast. He leads from the front, often taking on the hardest tasks himself to set the tone for the team. In the spin-off Parker's Trail, which has reached its 7th season, he continues to take on new challenges in unfamiliar environments. In the most recent installment, Parker traveled to Brazil in search of gold. This journey took him deep into South America, where conditions were wildly different from what he was used to. Between dealing with intense heat, unpredictable terrain, and local mining customs, it was another test of his adaptability. The risks were higher, but so were the potential rewards. The appeal of Parker's Trail lies in the fact that it pushes Parker beyond the technical work of running a mine. It shows the adventurer side of him, the person willing to walk historic trails, enter deep jungles, and face real dangers, all in pursuit of understanding mining's past and future. Fans appreciate seeing this different side of him, especially as he reflects on what gold mining means both culturally and personally. Over the years, Parker Schnabel has become more than just a reality TV personality. He's become a role model in a field that's rarely glamorous, but always demanding. His story resonates because it's built on effort rather than hype, and on results rather than image. Even though the pressures are different now, with higher expectations and a larger audience, he continues to approach his work with the same focus that brought him success in the first place. There's no doubt that Parker has created a legacy in the gold mining world. From learning the ropes as a child under his grandfather's watchful eye, to running multi-million-dollar operations in multiple countries, his career has been marked by consistent growth. He's weathered personal loss, navigated the unpredictable world of reality television, and managed to stay relevant in an industry that demands constant results. And perhaps the most impressive part is that Parker has done all of this while staying true to his original goals. He wanted to be a miner, not a celebrity, not a brand, just someone who worked the land and made something out of it. Along the way, he became all three, but never at the expense of the work itself. As Parker continues forward, facing new terrain and new pressures, it's clear that his story is far from over. But what's already obvious is that his legacy won't be measured just by the amount of gold he's pulled from the ground. It will be measured by how he built a life out of hard work, how he honored his family's past, and how he kept moving forward, even when things got hard.